Perps, Kid Copious, back here in the bunker. Purple State Party representing. Gotta adjust myself there. So anyhow, we're in week 10. Pretty proud of myself. You know, trying to do this while working a regular job that's, you know, times exhausting. You know, some days I'll clear 6-7 miles of just walking around warehouses, climbing stairs, climbing ladders, things like that. So it's hard to do this, so I'm really happy with myself, you know. Trying to upgrade my tech a little bit here, you know. Whoa, lighting adjustment right there. You know, and besides, of course, you know, the ever-present coronavirus that we're living through, and I'd love to get away from that, because, man, when I started this, it wasn't supposed to be, you know, just nonstop, like, complaining about a damn virus. But that's what it turned into, you know, so you got to roll with the punches. But, you know, and some other things that are going on, you know, a shout out to a really good show, Solar Opposites on Hulu. Not sponsored by them in any way, shape, or form. You know, come on. Who's going to sponsor this? But it's a good show. It's, you know, from, you know, the creators of Rick and Morty. So if you know Rick and Morty, then, you know, kind of know what to expect. It's a little bit out there. A little bit different, dealing with some aliens. You know? Well, it's a cool show, man. I found it really funny. We binged about 4 or 5 episodes today. So I thought I'd give it a shout out. It's hard for me right now. I've got a webcam up, and I'm trying to figure out where to look and look at my notes at the same time, stuff like that. So, you know, we're growing together, you know, all 3 of you. Your 18th favorite masked character. Putting the work in, man. Week 10. Dang. So, you know, we heard today that not today, but this week we heard, you know, NFL is going to return. Big football fan. Fantasy, you know, betting, all of that. But they're not going to return to Mexico City or London, which I think is really good, because I've never really liked the foreign games at all. I don't think it makes good football. Football is such a tough game. You know, to throw them into such different time zones, make them travel, completely different scenarios. I don't think it's good for the game. You know, there was a World League at one point where there were teams in London. I believe it was the London Monarchs. I'm not going to try to remember the other names, but I think it was Berlin Thunder or something like that. But, you know, they didn't fizzle out. You know, because as we saw even with, like, the XFL, it's really difficult. It's a very difficult game to play at such a high level. You know, you can't just make good leagues with the available players that are out there. It's just one of those things. I mean, part of it, of course, is that, you know, most football players primarily come from the United States. So, you know, it kind of, I guess it shrinks the pool more than it does for, like, say, baseball or even, basketball, you know. You know, I'm hoping the English Premier League gets going, you know, my Arsenal, you know, not doing too great this year, but they were starting to make a little bit of a turnaround, and that got cut off. You know, got excited because the Dodgers got bets, but, you know, are they going to see a return on any of that money? I don't know. I mean, even, you know, with how desperate we are for sports right now, yeah, I'd even watch some baseball. And I guess the UFC is going to go ahead and have their fight, which has probably happened by now. But, I mean, I was a fan from way back in the day. And, you know, the Ultimate Fighter was my go-to show. I loved it. Trained in it because I was so inspired. I mean, I got into really good shape. Finally put on some pounds because I was kind of a skinny little guy. It really inspired my life, but, you know, everything being on pay-per-view now and in pay services locked behind paywalls or on ESPN, you know, I don't know. They canceled Ultimate Fighter. Like, I've just kind of fallen a little bit out of love with it, you know. But, you know, I'm glad it's back. I mean, I still try to follow it wherever I can, you know, but you can't really see anything. And, of course, the NBA's all worried because the China NBA hasn't started up, and they're worried about it. But I don't even like to even say the NBA anymore, man, because, you know, they just suck. You know, they side with China because China butters their bread, you know. And I'm not the kind of person who does things just to get my bread buttered. I'll butter my own bread. Thank you very much. I know the difference between right and wrong. And I'd stand up for it. Of course, I've got nothing. I've got no skin in the game, so it's easy for me to be more defiant. I guess you could say that. But whatever. Whatever. If they want to whore themselves with China, let them whore themselves with China. That's on them, man. I'm not watching. It's a freaking dumb game anyhow. For me, I'm one of them Americans who thinks it's too high scoring. I don't necessarily like high scoring games. Unless you're football and you get 7 points 6 points every time you score a touchdown. But I'm the kind of guy who likes soccer. So, basketball is kind of the opposite of that. So, the other big news is that they're getting rid of the pass interference. I didn't really mean to go on sports for, nearly 10 minutes, but it's kind of the only news we've got. Other than just going on and on about, obviously we're going to touch on all that political crap, but they're getting rid of the pass interference. And in an article, there was an interview where they basically broke it down and said, well, it's the kind of penalty or it's the kind of review that's subjective. And that's really hitting it right on the head. It is subjective. If a guy's foot crosses a line or doesn't cross a line, that's a matter of fact. That's something you can look at on tape and say, look, there it is. It crossed or it didn't cross. But in pass interference, it's just not that way. I know there have been a lot of bad calls. That's not really, but it's subjective. And subjective seems to be a really good segue right into politics. We have this tendency nowadays to superside with our side. We're all in. We don't give a heck what they do, man. We don't care. We'll defend whatever they tell us to defend, and we'll hate whatever they tell us to hate. But, going back a few years ago, there was a terrorist attack, 9/11. I had voted for Bush. My brother had voted for, I believe, Gore. There was all that controversy, blah, 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 blah. And we were arguing about who would have handled it better. And my point that I think stands to this day, when it comes to those types of situations, people generally rise. People in those positions, for the most part, are going to rise to do the things that need to be done, the things that are supposed to be done. In certain cases, there's rules in place, protocols, which we didn't have for a pandemic, which I don't really understand. So our politicians, I've already covered that subject. So, Bush was in charge during 9/11. Trump is in charge during the COVID. They deserve our respect. They deserve our support. They do not need to be distracted by trying to defend themselves from all of these armchair quarterbacks who didn't make the cut. If you're so smart, then why aren't you president? Huh? What? If you're so smart, why don't you have the job? Because you didn't want to do the work? Maybe you're not qualified? I don't know. But it's a tough job. It's like being a cop. It's so easy to sit in the comfort of our own homes and point fingers and say what they did. And I do the same thing. If you've watched any of my other videos, that's what I do. I armchair quarterback, people like Gavin Newsom. But it's my opinion. And at the end of the day, I have to make my decision on the job they did based on the job they did. I don't go after Gavin because he's a Democrat. Until he started acting all crazy and power mad, I didn't really give a crap about him one way or the other. I thought he was an idiot for a lot of the things that he did and for the way California is being run, but that's fine. Whatever. But you go to the Trump COVID thing, and the media flip-flops its narrative. It says it's no big deal. Then it says, oh, it was a big deal and he should have acted sooner. They say when he banned travel, they're like, oh, it was racist. And now they're turning around and saying, oh, it wasn't enough. These are big issues. These are complicated things. These are complicated things. This is not easy. There is no scripted playbook. There should be, but there wasn't. But what that really segues into the meat of tonight, I guess, for me, because I'm devastated by the loss of our local soup plantation, which I guess is gone. I don't know how the heck that happened, but they're gone. Buffets are gone. It's kind of ironic because in my area there's a lot of Chinese buffets. So I don't know what's going to happen, but apparently buffets are pretty much a thing of the past, maybe, because we've gotten so scared by a disease that, for the most part, is not affecting entire segments of the population. Yeah, there's pockets here and there's pockets there and there's bigger pockets there and there's bigger pockets here, but for the most part, we're gonna lose people, you know, and to lose all of our hard work and our dreams and the things we were trying to build, you know, how many millions are going to ultimately have their lives ruined, or at least temporarily ruined by this, you know? Whatever. So, you know, we're in this whole stream right now of just blaming Trump. And I was really happy the other night because I saw how somebody had tweeted out about, they were sort of like bragging about how, oh, good job, Trump, you lost all these jobs and you lost all these lives. And they were kind of saying that everything that had happened was Trump's fault with this COVID. But for the most part, people ignored him. They ignored him. Like, we should ignore people like people who want to blame Trump for this. You know, the flat earthers, the anti-vaxxers. What's even the point of indulging them? What's even the point of arguing with these people? They're irrational. That's what it is. They have an irrational thought. And just like addiction, nobody is going to change their mind or change their ways unless they want to. So arguing with them is just idiotic. You know, first and foremost, it's just idiotic. It's a waste of time. But look, the bottom line is like, if there's any blame to be assessed to this, you know, it's China. That's what it is. That's who it is. You know, it started there. Whether it was some sort of gross freaking wet market, whatever the hell that is, I don't want to know, or in a lab. You know, I personally believe that it was what we thought it was initially. You know, bad bat apparently, and some sort of wet market. I don't know, but we know where it came from. We know, and now we're knowing that they knew about it, and they allowed it to spread. They tried to cover it up because that's what you do in, you know, those types of countries. You cover things up. You don't want the pot. You want to control the narrative. Oh boy, does that sound familiar? It's like what goes on here. They want to control the narrative. You see the small pattern right there. But they allowed it to spread. People were coming in and out and in and out and in and out. Whatever. But it's theirs. But it brings up a bigger issue. Why are we so damn reliant on one of our worst enemies? Why? Well, we're going to get into a little bit more of that. But, I mean, you know, for people who really have forgotten their history or whatever, basically, as soon as World War II ended, they had a revolution. They became communists. We fought them in the 50s in Korea. We fought them in the 60s in Vietnam. We continue to fight them today. They continue to spy on us and steal our secrets. And thanks to Richard Nixon going over there, oh man, you know, we now have so much tied up in them. It's ridiculous. And they've got to be laughing. They have to be laughing at us. And now they've got like half of our people basically defending them because they hate Trump so much. So they side with China, one of the worst polluters on the planet. And okay, so let's look at this. The left loves the environment. China is one of the worst polluters out there. Remember, they don't just pollute like in China. They're heavily involved in Africa. So they're over there mining stuff. and pretty much not giving a crap how it's done. You know what I mean? They don't care about the environment one bit. They use slaves, both in Africa and in China. They use slave. They'll use slave labor. Some of your things were built by slave labor. That's just the way it is. That's how it is. That's who you're defending. They've got concentration camps. I'm not even going to go into that. We already know who had those and what they were used for. They've got them. They don't really like minorities over there at all. Your ideas of social issues, they don't give a crap about any of that. They feel what they feel. I mean, go over there. You hippies, go over there and try protesting. Protest for somebody's rights. See what happens. You remember Tiananmen Square? They got tanks and they'll use them. They don't have free speech. They have Hollywood remove gay, lesbian, and trans scenes from movies so that they can air over there. And Hollywood does it. The very same people who promote it will not stand up to China. The NBA will not go. There's members there. Oh, I'm not going to, if we win the championship, I'm not going to go see Trump. But they're in bed with China. I mean, you know, our plan was supposed to be, you know, by giving them economic freedom, you know. Whoa, I don't know what that is, but that needs to go bye-bye. Hey, the things that happen sometimes. I don't know what that was. But anyhow, you know, they're laughing at us. Nixon goes over, gets them open, and then we start selling them our buildings and our companies, and we allow them to buy up parts of our, you know, our outer infrastructure, I guess you can call it. God only knows what they act. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. That, you know, I wish I had the kind of time to research who owns what, but I know they own stuff, which is ridiculous. We're fighting these people. These are our enemies. This is, you know, they've got us distracted by the little countries, you know, the Iraqs and the North Koreas, things that we can deal with fairly easily. China's not our friend. They're laughing at us. We buy a large portion of our important goods from them, and they're laughing. They're like, how in the hell is this going on? I mean, they're fine. Believe me, they're fine. You know, buying our stuff and selling it over there. I mean, most of it ends up being counterfeited. I mean, that's just what happens. You know, they counterfeit anything that they want. They don't follow any of the international laws. If it doesn't suit them, they don't do it. And that's just how it is. I mean, that's what they do. You know, when it comes to business, man, they are cutthroat. They don't really care. When it comes to making money, they don't really care. They really don't care. And that's where we get our stuff. We don't spread the wealth. We don't spread the wealth around the world and encourage companies to set up in other places where they can still get, you know, low-cost employees and all of the other things that they need. But they're over in China using slave labor right now. And what, we're supposed to be fine with that? Like, we weren't when apartheid was in South Africa. We knew who was doing business with South Africa, and we boycotted them. There's still places to this day, all those years later, that I know of that I don't frequent. Major companies. And that's what we need to start doing. You know, we need to start standing up to people like the NBA and say, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, what's going on in Hong Kong's pretty effed up, man. You know, aren't we supposed to be the defenders of freedom and rights and all of that? And isn't that what you're supposed to be? The social justice warriors out there? That your hatred for Trump has made you side with another country that is evil. Reagan called the Russians the evil empire. What do you think we've got right now with them? They didn't act in the best interest of the world. They acted in their own best interest, and that was it. And now, because things are effed up there, right? Because of the coronavirus, we can clearly see what would happen if we ever had to go to war with these people. We would get shut down again. And medicines, buterols, and things like that, with all these names I can barely pronounce, they wouldn't get made. Our medicines wouldn't get made. Important protection gear wouldn't get made. That stuff needs to be made somewhere else. Maybe somewhere where we could actually get to it quite easily. Maybe somewhere closer. You know, there are a lot of countries that are closer to us, that are even territories of us. Why are we not building there? Why are we not reinvesting in America? When a company makes a shoe for 45 cents and sells it for $120 and then says, well, we need to employ overseas labor. Why? Are we really okay with all this? Because again, the left is supposed to be against corporate greed. And that's all the arrangement with China is. It's failed. Okay? It's failed. We gave them economic freedom. We gave them money. They have done nothing to improve their side of it. Nothing. Nothing. All they've done now is reap the advantages of doing a business with America and all the other people they were doing business with. Because America, 300 million people here. A lot of money here. So, giving them the world's best customer, is that really what the left thinks is a good idea? Do you really hate Trump so much that you would go down that route? People nominated Biden, and they know where he stands on things. It's freaking crazy, man. But I feel that we're coming out of this whole corona thing, and I'm really hopeful that people take a good long look at what certain people in power did. The people who affect your lives the most, the state people. Right there, state. Because that's really where it comes down to. The federal government is bigger than all of us. It's about fighting our enemies. It's about global treaties. It's about trillions of dollars. It's about a responsibility so big that most of our heads would explode. The kind of stress, the kind of nonstop barrage of BS that they have to deal with at the top. But down here at the state, the answers are sometimes right in front of them, and they don't do it. But you look at those people, and you write their names down, and then the next time there's an election, don't write their names down. Remember, be kind to yourself. We're all in this together. I'm here. There's an email. Whatever I have to do. Thank you so much for watching. I'm just doing this for me. And I hope that someday it starts reaching people, because I really mean what I say, man. And if you feel any love, it's real. Peace.